Today I am going to introduce myself. I am Sri Duryodhan Mer, ex-principal and ex-reader in English, Gokul Parvati Rural College, Kuntara District, Sambalpur State, Odisha. I am going to teach all of you, my friends, an interesting prose piece called My Greatest Olympic Prize, written by Jesse Owens. Introduction of the author. James Cleveland Jesse Owens was an American track and field athlete who specialized in sprints and long jump. He participated in the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin, Germany, where he achieved international fame by winning 4 gold medals, one each in the 100 meters, 200 meters long jump, and as a member of the 4 into 100 meter relay race team. Unit 1 warm-up. The Olympic Games is the world's foremost sports competition featuring summer and winter sports, in which athletes from all over the world participate in a variety of competitions. In this essay, Jesse Owens shares his experiences of 1936 Summer Olympics held in Berlin, when patriotic feelings were running high in Germany. However, Owens did not bother, as he trusted in his abilities. He tells his stunning story about forging a lasting friendship with a German, putting differences aside for the love of the games. Read the following unit of the text and note how Owens reacted to the performance of his rival. In other words, in the first unit, the author says that as all of the world knows that the Olympic Games, which is the greatest game of the world, it features summer and winter sports. That means both in summer and winter season, these games is held, where all over the world athletes participate in a different kinds of competitions. In this prose piece, Jesse Owens shares his experiences of 1936 Summer Olympics, which was going to be held in Berlin, the great city of Germany, where by that time patriotic feelings of the people of Germany were running high. However, the author did not bother, as he had got faith and trust in his capacity and ability. He tells his wonderful, marvelous and stunning story about how a lasting friendship was forged or created putting differences aside for the love of the games. अर्थात मोर कहबार माने से समय ओलंपिक गेम्स सारा विश्व रे एक विशिष्ट बा सर्वोत्कृष्ट गोटे खेल प्रतियोगिता भाव में परिगणित होइतिला। एही खेलटी उभय ग्रीष्म एवं शीत ऋतु रे अनुष्ठित होउतिला एवं एइथिरे सारा विश्वर अनेक नामजादा विशिष्ट खेलाड़ी माने योगदान देउथिले। सेही समय लेखक कहउचंती जे से तांकर निजर अनुभूति गुड़िक 1936 मसीहा हेउथुवा ओलंपिक गेम बर्लिन रे तांकर अनुभूति गुड़िक से बांटी थिले एवं से कौनसी थे तांकर विश्वास नथिले कारण तांकर दक्षता उपरे तांकर विशेष भाव दक्षता विशेष भाव विश्वास थिला। से यही कहानीटा अद्भुत कहानीटा कहउचंती जड़े जर्मान सहित जो जर्मान सहित तांकर बंधुत्व सृष्टि होइथिला। Text. It was the summer of 1936. The Olympic Games were being held in Berlin because Adolf Hitler childishly insisted that his performers were members of a master race. Nationalistic feelings were at all-time high. That means the Great Olympic Games was held in the year 1936 in Berlin. And by that time, Adolf Hitler, the world dictator, childishly or like a child, stressed that all his performers or athletes were members of a master race, means a great race. They had a nationalistic feeling for all time to come. अर्थात यही मुख्य ओलंपिक खेलटा जोटा कि सारा विश्व रे प्रसिद्ध थिला 1936 मसीह बर्लिन सहर रे अनुष्ठित होइथिला एवं से समय सारा विश्वर अनेक खेलाड़ी माने एथिरे योगदान देथिले। से समय से जर्मन देशर जड़े शासक जहाँकर नाम थिला एडल्फ हिटलर, से मुख्य भाव में गुरुत्व आरोप कले जे तांकर समस्त खेलाड़ी माने गोटे मुख्य वंशर अटंती। से समय तांकर गोटे जातीयता मनोभाव मुख्य भाव में थिला। I was not too worried about all this. I had trained, sweated and disciplined myself for 6 years. With the games in mind, while I was going over on the boat, all I could think about was taking home 1 or 2 of those gold medals. I had my eye especially on the long jump. A year before, as a university student, I had set the world record of 26 feet 8 1 by 4 inches. Everyone kind of expected me to win that Olympic event hands down. I mean to say that the author was not worried all about the game because he had trained, sweated and disciplined himself for 6 years very well. And he had that spirit of the game in his mind. He was determined in his mind. While he was going on a boat on the ocean or sea, he had a feeling he must get one or two gold medals. He had a fixed eye, especially on the long jump. Long jump was very favorite on his part. A year before, as a university student, he had set the world record of 26 feet 8'1" by 4 inches. This was his record by that time. Every kind of expected him to win that Olympic event hands down. अर्थात लेखक जेतेबेले बर्लिन सहर अनुष्ठित होउतबा ओलंपिक खेल प्रतियोगिता रे भाग नेबा पय जाउथिले से अनुभव कले जे से भल भावरे प्रशिक्षित झाड़ भई छंती निजको श्रृंखलित हिसाब गठन करिसंती एवं तांकर गोटे लक्ष्य थिला जे जेतबेले से गोटे डंगारे बा नौकारे समुद्र अतिक्रम करुथिले से भाविले जे निश्चित भाव से गोटे ना दीटा स्वर्ण पदक निश्चय पाइबे एवं तांकर मुख्य उद्देश्य थिला बा निर्दिष्ट दृष्टि थिला लॉन्ग जंप उपरे लंबडिया उपरे कारण लंबडियाटा तांकर अति प्रिय खेल बा इवेंट थिला वर्षक पूर्वर से जड़े विशिष्ट यूनिवर्सिटी छात्र थिले तांकर रेकर्ड 26 फुट 8'1" बाय 4 इंच थिला। प्रत्येक व्यक्ति तांको ठारो आशा प्रकाश करुथिले जे से निश्चित भाव गोटे ना दीटा मेडल ओलंपिक गेम रे झिणिकी घर को फेरिबे। I was in for a surprise when the time came for the long jump trials. I was startled to see a tall boy hitting the pit at almost 26 feet on his practice leaps. He turned out to be a German named Lugelong. I was told that Hitler had kept him under wraps, evidently hoping he would win the jump. That means the author was surprised when the time came for the long jump trial. He was astonished to find a tall boy hitting the pit at least 26 feet on his practice leaps. He found that there was a German athlete called Luzlum. He came to know from Hitler, the dictator of the world, then that Hitler had kept him under the cover, clearly hoping he must win the game of long jump. अर्थात लेखक आश्चर्य थे जेतेबेले लंग जंप रो परीक्षा आसिला से आश्चर्य थे कारण आउ जड़े जर्मन देशर डेंगा बालकटीए 26 फुट अभ्यासगत खेल जिणी से डेंगा बालकर ना थिला लुजलम आउ लेखक जाना पाइले जे हिटलर से बालक को तांको चादर रे घोड़े थिले एवं भाभी थे से निश्चय जिणिब. I supposed that if Long won, it would add some new support to the Nazis' Aryan superiority theory. After all, I am a Negro, a little hot under the collar about Hitler's ways. I determined to go out there and really show the Führer and his master race who was superior and who was not. That means when the author knew that it would mix or add some new support to the Nazis' Aryan superiority theory. That means the Nazis thought that there was a sense of superiority among them. In other words, they were superior to any other athletes all over the world. Anyhow, the tall boy was a Negro. The author was a Negro, a little hot under the collar about Hitler's ways. He was determined to go there and really showed dare further, and his master race who was superior in the world. अर्थात लेखक भाविले जे जदि लुजलंग जिणीब खेल ताहले नाजी मानकर आर्यन सुपरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स बढ़ीजिव कारण से जड़े निग्रो थिले एवं से दृढ़ संकल्प नेले जे तांकर रेसटा तांकर जाति बा तांकर देशर खेलाड़ी माने अन्य मान अपेक्षा उत्कृष्ट थिले बा ऊर्ध्वरे थिले. यूनिट सेकंड वार्म अप. Anger is the worst enemy of an athlete. Read the following unit of the text and find out how Owens suffered for his anger and who bailed him out. Text. An angry athlete is an athlete who will make mistakes, as any coach will tell you. I was no exception. On the first of my three qualifying jumps, I leaped from several inches beyond the takeoff board for a no jump. On the second jump, I was even worse. Did I come 3,000 miles for this? I thought bitterly. To fail in the trial and to make a fool of myself. I mean to say that any angry athlete is not a proper athlete, because the athlete who is always angry, he must make any sort of mistake. Any coach can tell that it is true in all cases. And the author was also no exception to it. On the first of his three qualifying jumps, he leaped from several inches beyond the takeoff board for a no jump. That means from the first of his three qualifying jumps, he could leap many inches beyond the takeoff board, which was not properly a real jump. On the second jump, he was even worse than the before. He thought to himself that he had come from 3,000 miles far, and had he come for 3,000 miles without getting a medal? He thought very bitterly and seriously. He would fall in the trials and make himself a fool. अर्थात कौनसी खेलाड़ी जदि रागान्वित हुए से केबे भी खेल रे जीति परिबो नहीं, एवं प्रत्येक रागान्वित खेलाड़ी निश्चित भाव रे भूल ना भूल करिबो ही करिबो। प्रत्येक खेल शिक्षक यही कथा शिखाती। एथिरे लेखक मध्य बात जाई नांती। तांकर प्रथम इवेंट रे से देखिले से देखिले एवं अनुभव कले से जेतबेले डेइले से जेतबेले डेइले से टेकअप बोर्ड जो थिला ताठू अधिक डेइले, जोटा कि रियल भाव में डिया नथिला। द्वितीय थर से जेतबेले डेइले सेटा आउ खराब हो गला। से निजे को निजे भाविले से कौन 3000 ମାଇଲ ଅତିକ୍ରମ କରି ଆସି ବିଫଳ ହେବେ। Walking a few yards from the pit, I kicked disgustedly at the ground. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to look into the friendly blue eyes of the tall German long jumper. He had easily qualified for the trials finals on his first attempt. He offered me a warm handshake. That means walking a few yards from the pit, the author kicked disappointedly at the ground. Soon he felt a hand touching on his shoulder. He looked back in a friendly blue eyes of the tall German long jumper. The German long jumper had qualified easily for the finals on his first attempt. That jumper offered him a good and firm handshake. अर्थात लेखक जितेबाला पिट रु किछि गज चलिले से विरक्त होइकरी भूई रे गोईठा मारले। हठात से अनुभव कले पछपटू जड़े व्यक्ति तांको कांधरे हाथ दौची। से पछको अनाइले एवं देखिले जे सेई लंबडिया खेलुवा व्यक्ति कर आखि गुड़ाक नील रंग देखा जाउथला। से अति सहजरे फाइनाल को जिणी जाइथिले प्रथम चेष्टारू। से लेखकंक सहित गोटे मजबूत हाथ मिलेले। Jesse Owens, I am Lujlong. I don't think we have met. He spoke English well, though with a German twist to it. लेखक को कहले कि कहले लुजलंग लेखक को कहले जे मु भावु नहीं जे आमे दी जन आगर साक्षात होइतिला एवं से जेतले से कहउथिले लुजलंग कहउथिले से इंग्राजी भाषा को स्पष्ट भाव में कह पार नथिले। जर्मन भाषा टिके मिसे दउथिले सेथिरे। Glad to meet you, I said. Then, trying to hide my nervousness, I added, how are you? आनंद होई कहले जे मु आपण को भेटुची। से तांकर नर्वसनेस क्वालिटी को लुचेले एवं पचारला आपण केमिति अछंती। I am fine. The question is, how are you? That means the question was, how are you? Whether you are fine or bad. अर्थात प्रश्न थिला जे आपण केमिति अछंती। भल अछंती ना खराब अछंती. What do you mean? I said. The author said that. What do you mean? अर्थात से पचारे आपण कौन भावुंट. Something must be eating you, he said, proud the way foreigners are when they have mastered a bit of American slang. You should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. That means there must be something which was eating him. The foreigners, when spoke, they spoke with a bit of American slang. He should be able to qualify with his eyes closed. अर्थात से कहले जे कौन सी गोटे जिनिस तांकर भितर खाऊची शेष कर दूची. विदेशी माने जो कहते से माने गोटे अमेरिकन भाषा रे कहते एवं आखि बुझी. Believe me, I know it, I told him, and it felt good to say that to someone. For the next few minutes, we talked together. I did not tell long what was eating me, but he seemed to understand my anger, and he took pains to reassure me. Although he had been schooled in the Nazi youth movement, he did not believe in the Aryan supremacy business any more than I did. We laughed over the fact that he really looked the part. Though an inch taller than I, he had a lean, muscular frame, clear blue eyes, fair hair, and a strikingly handsome face. Finally, seeing that I had calmed down somewhat, he pointed to the take-up board. I mean to say that for the next few minutes, both of them talked in a friendly way. The author did not tell Lujlong that what was eating him, but he understood his anger, and he took pains to reassure him. Although he was schooled properly in the Nazi youth movement, he did not believe in the Aryan superiority complex. They had a good laugh over the thing that he really looked the part. An inch taller than him, he had a lean, muscular body, blue eyes, fair hair, beautiful hair, and a good-looking face. At last, he had come down somehow. He pointed to the take-up board. अर्थात किसी समय सकाशे उभय बंधुता भाव परस्पर भितर आलोचना कले, वार्तालाप कले. से लुजलंग को कहले जे किछिटा तांको खाई जाउछि. से मध्य आश्वासन तांको देले. जदियो से नाजी यूथ मूवमेंट रे योगदान देते से भल भाव शिक्षा ग्रहण कर पारिथिले। से आर्यन सुप्रीमेसी कॉम्प्लेक्स विषय विश्वास करती नहीं। उभय हसिले, आनंद नेले। से तांको ठारू 1 इंच रो डेंगा थिले एवं तांकर गोटे सुंदर बलिष्ठ शरीर थिला। ता सहित तांको आखि गुड़िक नील रंगर थिला, बाल गुड़िक सुंदर थिला एवं से बहुत चेहरावान थिले। शेषरे से ठंडा हेले, शांति हेले। तापर से टेकअप बोर्ड को अनाइले। Look, he said, why don't you draw a line a few inches at the back of the board and add making your takeoff from there? You will be sure not to foul and is certainly enough to jump far enough to qualify. What does it matter if you are not fast in the trials? Tomorrow is what counts. That means he said, why don't he draw a line a few inches at the back of the takeoff board and making himself take off from there? It is sure that he would not make any sort of foul or mistake, and he must jump far enough to qualify the game. What does it matter if he is not fast in the trials? The next day would count. अर्थात से कहले जे तुम्हें कहीं टेकअप बोर्ड पछपटे गोटे गार टाणुना हो। तुम जदि एपरी कर तुम कौन से प्रकार भूल कर ना, तुम निश्चित भाव जम्रे जिणव। आर दिन समस्त जिनस गुड़ाक जना पड़। Suddenly all the tension seemed to ebb out of my body as the truth of what he said hit me. Confidently I drew a line a full foot behind the takeoff and proceeded to jump from there. I qualified with almost a foot to spare. That means all of a sudden the tension of the mind went out from his body, and very faithfully and confidently the author drew a line a full foot behind the board and went to jump from there. Certainly he qualified with almost a foot to spare. अर्थात हठात तांकर समस्त विरक्ति भावना शरीर उभेगला एवं विश्वास भाव से गोटे टेकअप बोर्ड रो पछपटे गोटे गार टाणिले एवं देखागला से यहाँ जिणिले। Inuit thought warm up. Do you believe in the adage, a friend in need is a friend indeed? Read the following note of the text and note how Owens and Lujolong became good friends. Text. That night I walked over to Lujulong's room in the Olympic village to thank him. I knew that if it had not been for him, I probably would not be jumping in the finals the following day. He sat in his quarters and talked for 2 hours. We sat in his quarters and talked for 2 hours about track and event, ourselves, the world situation, and a dozen other things. That very night, the author went to the quarter of Lujulong, where the Olympic game was being held. The author came to know that if it had not been for him, he probably would not be jumping in the final. The next day, both of them sat in his quarters and talked over various things like about track and field and all events, the situation of the world and many other things. अर्थात सेई रात्रि रे लेखक लुजलंकर कोठरी को प्रवेश कले जोठारे ओलंपिक गेम होउथला। लेखक जानिबा को पहले से निश्चय भाव आर दिन फाइनाल जिणिबे। उभय तांको कोठरी रे बसिले, विभिन्न कथा आलोचना कले, ट्रैक बाबद रे, फील्ड बाबद रे बा सारा देश बाबद रे एवं अन्यान्य जिनिस। When I finally got up to leave, we both knew that a real friendship had been formed. Luj would go out to the field the next day trying to beat me if he could, but I knew that he wanted me to do my best, even if that meant my winning. So on the next day, the very night, both of them talked about many things, and when the author was about to leave the quarter, both felt that a new friendship, a real friendship has been created in them. And Lujulong would go to the field the next day trying to beat him, but the author came to know that he wanted him to do his best, even if that was his winning. अर्थात उभय अनेक जिनिस ऊपर आलोचना करबा परे लेखक जेतबेले तांको क्वार्टर को छाड़िबा पई जाउथले, उभय अनुभव कले जे गोटे सुंदर बंधुत्व तांको भितर गढ़ी उठी एवं लुज आर दिन तो पड़िया को जीवे एवं लेखक जानिबा को पाइले जे से केमिति तांगर बंधु केमिति जिणिबे जोटा कि तांगर विजय हो पारे। As it turned out, Luch broke his own past record. In doing so, he pushed me on to a peak performance. I remember that at the instant I landed from my final jump, the one which set the Olympic record of 26 feet 5 by 4 inches, he was at my side, congratulating me. Despite the fact that Hitler glared at us from the stands, not 100 yards away, Luch shook my hand hard, and it was not a fake smile with a broken heart sort of grief either. That means, in other words, long broke his past record. By doing so, he pushed him onto a peak performance or climax. He remembered that on that very moment he landed from his trial jump, one which set the Olympic record of 20 feet, 26 feet, 5'1" by 4 inches. By that time, he congratulated him, and Mr. Hitler, the world dictator, was looking at both of them from a 100-meter away. Lutz shook his hand, and it was not a fake smile, means it was a real smile, but with a broken heart. अर्थात जेतेबेले लुज तांकर अतीत रेकर्ड भांगिले से जानिबा को पाइले से बहुत ऊपर को उठी जाइछंती। से अनुभव कले जे से जेतेबेले फाइनल जंप पाई ओलाइबे से देखिले जे ओलंपिक रेकर्ड टा 26 फुट 5 1 बाय 4 इंचेस रे जिणिछंती। तांको से अभिनंदन जणाइले। से समय हिटलर जे कि विश्वर शासक थिले को दूररू अनाइले। लुज तांकर हाथटा हलैले एवं हसिले एवं से हसटा प्रकृत हस थिला, किंतु मनटा टिके भांगी जाइथिला। You could melt down all the world gold medals and cups I have, and they would not be a plating on the 24-carat friendship I felt for Luzlong at that moment. That means a good friendship was formed and created between them, and it was a real friendship. It was a 24-carat friendship. अर्थात तांकर भितर गोटे सुंदर बंधुत्व गढ़ी उठिथिला एवं एटा प्रकृत बंधुत्व थिला। I realized then through that Luz was the epitome of what P.D. Coubertin, founder of the modern Olympic Games, must have had in mind when he said, "The important thing in the Olympic Games is not winning but taking part. The essential thing in life is not conquering but fighting well." That means the author came to realize that Luzlong was the epitome of what a great man called P.D. Coubertin, the founder of modern Olympic Games, said that one must keep in mind that the important thing in Olympic was not winning but taking part or participating in it. And the most important thing in life of everybody was or is that conquering is not a great thing, but fighting well in the battlefield is a great thing. अर्थात लेखक अनुभव कले जे लुजलंग गोटे जनकर कथा को अनुभव कले से जनकर ना थिला P.D. Coubertin, जे कि आधुनिक ओलंपिक खेलर प्रतिष्ठाता थिले। से Coubertin कहूथिले जे ओलंपिक गेम रे ओलंपिक खेल रे ଜିତିବାରଟା ବଡ଼ କଥା ନୁହେଁ, ସବୁଠାରୁ ବଡ଼ କଥା ବା ମୁଖ୍ୟ କଥା ହେଉଛି ଭାଗ ନେବାଟା ଏବଂ ଜୀବନର ଗୋଟେ ଲକ୍ଷ୍ୟ ଥିବା କଥା ବା ଜାଣିବା କଥା ଯେ କୌଣସି ଖେଳରେ ଜିତିବାଟା ବଡ଼ କଥା ନୁହେଁ, କିନ୍ତୁ ସେଇ ଖେଳରେ ସବୁଠାରୁ ବଡ଼ ଜିନିଷ ବଡ଼ କଥା ହେଉଛି ଯେ ଭଲ ଭାବରେ ଯୁଦ୍ଧ କରିବା। ଯଦିଓ ସେ ହାରି ଯାଉ କାହିଁକି ନା। ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ। Thanking you all my friends and dear students. This is for today and now.